Hi, this is Ken Ham, President and CEO of Answers in Genesis and the Creation Museum. It was so sad to see that many of the responses to Dr. Menton and Dr. Purdom and myself from the secularists were just name-calling. In fact, the attacks on Dr. Purdom's Facebook were vicious. There was much profanity. I mean, it's interesting that many of the secularists were commenting on the fact that we don't allow comments on our videos on YouTube. Well, you can't, because what happens is the secularists attack in a vicious way, as we saw happen as a result of our response to Bill Nye. But you know, in a way, it's really because they're insecure. They're extremely insecure in their belief. For someone who's an atheist, if there's no God, I mean, when you die, from your perspective, you won't even know you ever existed. When people knew you die, they won't know you existed, you won't know they existed. Eventually everyone dies, no one will know anything ever was. I mean, no purpose and meaning in life. What does it really matter anyway? Why do they really care? The only reason they respond that way is because the Bible tells us the knowledge of God is written on our hearts. We have a conscience. We know there's a God. Otherwise, why would they respond that way? In fact, in Romans 1 in the Bible, it says men suppress the truth in unrighteousness. And really, when you see such an emotional response from these secularists, when you see the name-calling, the profanity, you realize what they're doing is trying to suppress the truth in unrighteousness. In a way, they're closing their ears, covering their eyes, and they're saying, we refuse to believe that there's a God who created. We reject the Bible. We reject God's word. Really, it's a clash of two worldviews, a clash of the absolutes of Christianity based on God's word and moral relativism based on man's words. And really, ever since Genesis chapter 3, when man rebelled against God, our heart is that we want to do what is right in our own eyes. Because we're sons and daughters of Adam, we inherit that sin nature of Adam, and that sin nature is we don't want God. We want to do what is right in our own eyes. We want to define marriage any way we want to define marriage, for instance. You know, the Bible makes it very clear, for instance, if you start with God's word, that God made Adam and Eve, he made a man and a woman. In the New Testament, when Jesus is asked about marriage, he says, haven't you read, he which made them, at the beginning made them male and female. It's very obvious, if you start with the Bible, that marriage is a man and a woman. But if you say, no, the Bible's not true, then of course you can define marriage however you want to define it. In fact, there's no such thing as marriage. It's whatever you want, however, whatever, you know, who cares? You see, and that's really what's going on here. We've got this clash of two worldviews because we have a clash of two religions. You start with God's word or man's word. Actually, the reaction of the secularist to me confirms over and over again that the Bible is true. It confirms Romans chapter 1, that they know in their hearts, and they suppress the truth in unrighteousness. And that's why we got such an emotional reaction from many of those secularists.